Well, welcome everybody here to a little bit of a different kind of KC Happy Hour tonight. It is a lot of racing that we've got coming your guys' way. Of course, over the next few days, a bunch of clubs are getting back underway, which is awesome to see. We want to give a lot of love and a lot of shout outs to them. It's also going to be one of the most active race weekends probably in the entire country, just based off the fact of how many drivers are going to be in two places that are less than 12 hours apart. Expected over 300 entries at the Cup Karts North America SpringNationals over at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the second year in a row. Already, I believe, over 300 pre-entries for the US Pro Kart Series season opener weekend at Orlando Kart Center. If you guys are tuning in and wanting some previews on both, of course, we've got a lot of cool special guests that'll be joining us. After our first commercial break, we're going to bring Paul and April Rice in from MGM Chassis. They're going to be able to talk to us a little bit, along with Ben Stahl of Stahl Racing, give you guys a little bit into that race, of course, what they've got going on, and help us preview that racetrack and a bunch of classes that are coming up. And then we've got Tim Koyen, the series administrator for the US Kart Series, coming in as well in the second half, or the final half of the show, kind of our third period, if you will. That's going to help us preview beginning around 8:30, barring everything. I got to check the text and make sure Tim was able to turn on the computer and get logged in. But we're going to get into that. In the meantime, I do have KC's own Aaron Hachmeister joining me in the studio tonight. Aaron, how you doing, bud?
Doing pretty good. Getting ready. Haven't packed yet to leave for Orlando tomorrow, but getting ready for all that. It's going to be a good weekend, hopefully. So,
yeah, should be pretty good. I hope here is we got everything going, got us live and ready. Let me make sure we got everything going. Looks like we had a little bit of a hiccup on internet. Anyway, as we hopefully get our signal a little bit better, we'll work on that throughout the show. Results going down at the bottom of the screen for the Challenge of the Americas event happened over the weekend in Phoenix, Arizona. Of course, over for COTA, there was another weekend GFC domination for the shifter classes. Hunter Pickett, along with Jacob Gulick, who got a Challenge of the Americas win. So it's pretty much just going to come down to those three drivers, it looks like, for the championship. Aaron, you and I were talking right before the show. I mean, how stacked the 100cc class got to be for that weekend. Oliver Hodgson getting in on the action. And I think a lot of that, of course, is guys getting ready for this event over here in Orlando. I know Oliver's on the entry list for X30 Pro, which we're going to get to later, but Jake Drew, obviously in the championship hunt, and leads that, getting a couple top twos. A few other notables out there. The Race Factory guys did good. I mean, right now it's between them and the group, and then Speed Sense, Austin Elliott, and Minnie and Mike. But anything else you kind of were looking through the results a little before the show that stick out to you, Aaron?
nothing that I could really see. I didn't get a huge look in there. Looking at Rock Shifter again, Hannah Greenemeyer is doing pretty well in the shifter stuff. She's she finished fifth on Sunday and third on Saturday, so it's a really strong showing for her. And I didn't even know she was running any shifter stuff until I looked at the results this weekend. Keon Tannen is a driver that I used to be sort of teammates with through DR. He did pretty well. And it looks like Ron White was running in senior as well. And he finished with the sixth place, at least one of the days there. That was Saturday. So there's 20 drivers in the shifter class. A really strong field out there for the Challenge of the Americas.
Yeah, and I do want to apologize as well here a little bit with the end. I'm working to the best we can with the hotspots that we normally have, actually really good for our shows, but they seem to be a little bit slower here tonight for myself and Aaron. So hopefully we'll get that sorted over the commercial break as we continue to run. Big shout out. There were some new kids that finally got some hardware, or kids that have been kind of knocking on the door. Race Liberante here in the chat tonight. Shout out to his guy, of course, Gage Korn, getting that big one in Mini Rock. Kason Hodge was awesome, and he was really good and coming into his own at Rock Vegas last year, which was cool to see. Jesus Vasquez Jr., we touched on him a lot in shows back in, I don't know, through the end of last year. I mean, he dominated 100cc or 100cc junior all the way through the SCUSA California Pro Kart Challenge. Was super quick out there. So he looks really good. There was a little bit of other news that really came in over the week. not a ton. If I had to say anything, we had first and foremost some updates paving for the PK Race Park track down in West Palm Beach. Supposedly those guys are finally getting some asphalt laid down here this week. They were set to begin paving here at the beginning of March, so I'm hoping that's going to be continuing to roll through for them, which would be great to see that track come up. As we had a lot of drivers, obviously, last week complaining about the bumpiness of the track over for the first and the second round, really, the Florida Winter Tour, going to temporary tracks over and over again. Those guys getting a little bit tired of that stuff. So this track, PK Race Park, it's kind of in the middle. I don't know where the affiliation is going to lie, but it doesn't need to have the MG Tire sponsorship that Homestead does, or I shouldn't say need. It doesn't have the MG Tire sponsorship that between that and the close relationship, obviously, with Miami and the same parent company. You haven't seen any Rock Winter Tour races there. PK Race Park kind of falls in the middle. It should be a lot like Orlando Kart Center. So hopefully that coming up will be another option to get these guys off the temporary circuits and onto a permanent racetrack. So there really wasn't much other breaking news that came through the week. I think a lot of this week, from what I can tell, and probably from what you've seen too, Aaron, was dominated by just the fact of everybody getting ready for two major karting events in the same region, getting ready to go green with 300 plus drivers. And for the sport, and we touched on it last week, that you've got two different crowds obviously being serviced. Definitely more grassroots, obviously, with the four-cycle side. It's a little bit cheaper to go and run over there. And you didn't have guys testing last weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway like you did with the Orlando Kart Center event. But it's two different crowds. It's two different races. It's great that the sport is big enough to support two races in the same region to be that big. They'd be a little bit bigger if they weren't on the same weekend. But honestly, I think there's so many different guys. I don't know if it would have been a major difference either way.
Yeah, I really don't know who would have been switched over, because like I was thinking about going till I realized I was going to be in Orlando for USPKS. I was thinking about going to the Spring Nats, but I don't know a lot of drivers that really have that overlap there, unless it was like Braden going out there, but he's tuning or doing like driver coaching and whatever stuff like that. There wouldn't be a ton of them, but I guess there probably might be some guys that go like, oh yeah, it's kind of like last year. Oh yeah, it's a race at Charlotte. It's going to be a big race. Let's go do it. There's probably a few of them, but I wouldn't figure more than 20 or 30.
KC Happy Hour is presented by Precision Performance Karting. PPK is the exclusive South Florida dealer for Coyote Motorsports kart racing chassis and Coyote's newest distributor. However, owner John Seglem and Coyote Motorsports' relationship spans across numerous decades in the sport, meaning that you've got years of winning expertise at your service. PPK offers trackside support at all of the CKNA South Division events, the CKNA Majors, such as the Spring Nationals and the Grand Nationals, the Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and a number of club races in the Southeast. PPK also has an impressive driver roster at these events, racking up multiple wins and podiums in 2021 with longtime Coyote Motorsports driver Chris Carroll and KC Happy Hour's own Paulie Massimino and Brandon Jarsacrack. If you're looking to get on the same race-winning equipment as these drivers, from the Coyote Motorsports chassis to the Odenthal motor mounts and Greyhound racing seats, Precision Performance Karting has you covered. Check out Precision Performance Karting on Facebook and Instagram, or email them at ppkartingfl@gmail.com.
There's a new engine program on the block that's already begun winning races. Speed Lab Racing Engines has already racked up wins in X30 classes at the US Pro Kart Series and Rock GP classes at the most recent Rock Vegas event. Headed up by names you can trust, such as longtime engine builder Mario Lafredo and industry veteran Mike Speed, Speed Lab Racing Engines has quickly become the engine of choice for a number of top teams in the sport, most recently servicing the entire Rullison Performance Group and Speed Concepts Racing operations at Rock Vegas, and also servicing the likes of JC Karting and Mike Doty Racing. It won't be long before this engine program gets a wait list, with his resume already filling up with wins. So make sure to reach out and get your tune-up by emailing them at speedlabracingengines@gmail.com.
I don't think Xander realizes he's muted still. Xander, for the question here.
All right.
There we
okay.
go. There he
All right.
is.
All right. I don't know how that got muted. I don't know how
I
it
was
got
trying
muted.
to cover for you a little bit.
We're a mess tonight. Listen, I appreciate it. I've got 2 hot spots. We're a mess. My boys over there are helping us out. There's not a lot you can learn in the days in. So let's just go ahead and bring in the guests because everyone's already making fun of us in the chat. Probably the most disorganized I think I've come off in a little bit. So, of course, it has to happen when we get new people on. Let's go ahead and bring them in at least. Paul and April Rice, thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight. How you guys doing?
We're doing good, bud. We're doing
Thanks
good.
for having us.
We're glad it's just like it's not just us that mess up the show. And it's not a mess up because this internet thing is.
The internet's very important. But, it's a struggle.
But that's good. I'm glad that we all have something in common here, for sure.
We definitely do. Let's talk to the guy who has spearheaded the 206 online campaign, Ben Stahl. Ben, how are you doing over there?
Yeah, really good. This is why we don't do any live videos right there. We have to do all the post-editing.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. See, it was a lot easier when I was doing that last year. Then we decided to go live a whole lot more often. So
You're
that
big
makes
time
things
now.
a little bit trickier. Yeah, I don't know about big time, but we're definitely making big time mistakes. So anyway.
you impressed us, so you're doing very well.
Yeah, we're moving along. Let's go ahead and let's bring you guys and talk a little bit about it. Both of y'all, well, I say all 3 of y'all were at the event last year. Ben, it was your first time running down at Charlotte. Paul, you know the rich history of kart racing around Charlotte Motor Speedway. You know what the old layout was like. You know what the new layout race is like. So I want to talk on that first. Ben, I want to get your first impression on it. And, of course, Paul, last year was the first big race, even though there was the Maxis race, I think, the year before that track had held. So, Ben, first thoughts going into Charlotte Motor Speedway, running there and running a little further away from home where you normally are.
Yeah, I pretty much live in Newcastle for my racing career. Occasionally go to Whiteland, but it was completely brand new. Also didn't have my 2 mechanics, Casey and Dad, there. So it was like a whole new experience. But it was a lot of fun. It's a really cool track. It's really neat that it's like inside the speedway, right? Like you look around and you literally just see stands everywhere. And that was just a really cool experience, but a really fun track. And I'm really excited to get back out there this year.
And moving into a little more in-depth here, especially talking with the racing, Paul, they widened the track a ton for the 206 guys, especially I don't remember how much slower. Maybe you might be able to help me compared to like some of the box stock level flathead classes, but it seemed like it was like a major draft race, even maybe more than when you guys ran back, which Gold Cup was one of the last series that ran there in 08.
I think the track has actually slowed down about 3 seconds from when we ran back whenever you said we ran. About 20 years before that, the track was a lot faster, but I think the backstretch kind of grew and the track grew, obviously, and everything got wider. I think they ended up adding 12 feet to the inside and to the outside, so it got quite a makeover for sure.
And for a guy who's been around the sport for so long, obviously when you have a business in it, you're vested in it, you're a stakeholder in the sport. I mean, what was your take on how the racing went there? Are you excited that we're going back?
I know April and I are extremely excited because it's about 12 minutes from the house.
Yeah, it's always a fun track.
So we get to sleep in our own bed and we can get to run back and forth to the shop a couple times a day. So it's a thrill for us. But the venue itself is just amazing. I mean,
Like Ben said, it's awesome to race inside of the speedway.
Yeah, you pull into that place and you just get the goosebumps, and especially if you're a kid. I mean, when I was racing there in the late 80s, it was goosebumps pulling into the place, and we still get goosebumps pulling into the place. It's quite amazing place.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's going to feel surreal to have the pits packed all the way out again. I thought they did a pretty good job with that last year. I mean, at least when it's a full event, you got guys pitting in the garages. They don't feel like they're all the way out in no man's land with the way the track is. Yeah, I mean, it's super cool. How did, with a big race there, we only really get now the winter now it's kind of coming up. but major 200 entry, 300 entry, 400 entry, 4-cycle races again. Did it put you guys in a box where you had to really work hard on getting the karts dialed in, or is anything really different with more rubber, or how was it? Last year anyway.
Well, last year, it's this weekend. It looks like it might be a little bit different because the weather is going to maybe play a little bit different factor because it's going to be warm and it's going to get warmer and it's going to get really warm on Sunday.
It's going to be a lot warmer this year than last year.
It was definitely not like that last year. It was, it was a pretty consistent racetrack, but thankfully local knowledge tells us that the racetrack will probably change quite dramatically through the 3-day event, just because of the number of go-karts, the amount of rubber, and the Vega tire is definitely a good tire, lays down rubber. So the track should go through some changes this weekend, which we're definitely excited to see.
And that's something that not a lot of racers, especially in going to this event for the first time, are going to really have an understanding of, even just going to a multi-day event. Ben, you've run the Grand Nationals when it's come to Newcastle. Obviously, last year you came and you were out there running a bit at Charlotte for the Spring Nats. I mean, from a guy that's normally used to running a club event, single day, sometimes even, GoPro Motorplex, you're in and out in a half day. How much different is it for you to go through a weekend and realize the track doesn't feel the same like it normally does, or like yesterday?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too is the space you have in between practice sessions. On a club day, I can go out there and run back to back to back, and the track kind of changes, but I can change with it. Whereas now I've got, a practice, then I've got to wait an hour and a half, and then I have another practice. So it's just kind of trying to plan ahead. And like Paul said, we've all been watching the weather a little bit, and it does look like it'll be a little bit warmer. So we're kind of taking notes on, what kind of changes we're going to be testing. But that's a tough thing, right? Is not being super familiar, don't have that local knowledge, that it'll be tricky. And I don't know, Paul, if you can divulge any more secrets to me, I'd be greatly appreciative.
We definitely have quite a few secrets, but thankfully I know April and I have been praying for this weather ever since Cup Carts has actually started.
No rain, and
it's not going to rain. We're not going to be back and forth. And, I love Newcastle, but the weather there is just quite up and down some years for sure. So thankfully it'll be a nice, good weekend for everybody for sure. Everybody will be a nice summer break, especially for the Northerners.
Get away from the snow.
Yes, it'll be beautiful. But if you remember, Xander, last year, Zach Linzel and I were fortunate enough to get interviews from you last year because Zach had a very good qualifying run in mediums, and actually I got to run masters, and you, for some reason, came and talked to me about that. So it was pretty cool last year. But hopefully this year the weather is going to be way different.
Yeah, last year was rough, man. I hate the cold. I mean, I grew up in Atlanta, and I'm just such a baby when it comes to it. So I was feeling awful last year, but it was a lot of fun. A big thanks to Dan and Briggs and Stratton. That's what helped get us out there last year, as we were kind of getting going and sponsored us to go. Obviously this weekend I don't get to go there with the way the conflict goes. There were a couple guys talking about we lost probably a few minis both ways. I think the mini classes you see maybe a little more crossover, but either way, I mean, the race is going to be huge. And yeah, it was a lot of fun because like you said, the tracks got so much wider. The straightaway looked like it got a little bit bigger. I mean, it was very easy for a media guy like myself to try and sell that race and package it nicely, because just about every main was a really good battle all the way through. I mean, you end up with 6, 8, 10 car packs for the lead. Yeah, I mean, it gets gnarly. And then the mid was too. And obviously this year there's probably going to be, I don't know what classes are the major ones. What's the biggest one right now? I was looking at the list a moment. Actually, I've got it right here. I should have done a little more research. Legends is at 20. We've got 38 over in Masters this year, 32 senior heavy. Senior medium's got 49. So I'm guessing that'll probably go up a little bit and run an LCQ from what I could tell. And then everything else is hovering in the 30 to 40 mark. Senior lights at about 47. Kid karts 9, which is always good to have them at the big shows. 46 in cadet, and then 43 in junior. But yeah, I mean, you see a lot of huge pack racing at these events, and then just like hard racing all the way through the pack, where I don't know, I feel like the aggression is probably the biggest thing that a club guy is going to get shocked by coming to this event too. Like they're going to fight you for 25th, 30th, just like they will for 15th, just like they will for 10th and for the lead. Whereas you can get cruising sometimes at a club race and not have guys race you nearly as hard. I mean, is that kind of what you would say as well with the new people you got coming, Paul?
Yeah, and when you say about the aggression and the pack racing, that has definitely changed on that racetrack. 20 or so years ago, the track was definitely not as draft dependent. Whether that was the go-karts or the way the go-karts were raced, or the motors, the flatheads, like you said, it's definitely more of a pack draft racing, which is kind of, if Ben can tell me right, it's kind of like Newcastle, but the draft's more important here than it has been in years past. So definitely the cream kind of rises to the top with that pack racing, in my opinion.
And Ben, like you said, I mean, you're a guy that's local to running over at Newcastle. When you go over to run here at Charlotte, had you run actually a ton of tracks outside of your home region up in the Midwest, or a lot of big races outside of that before last year?
I had run 2 tracks. I'd run Newcastle and I'd run Whiteland. And obviously Newcastle, you can put all sorts of configurations on it, but it's still the same track at the end of the day on the same pavement. But yeah, I think Paul's hit it on the head. You know, you need to find a buddy and really just kind of go. I remember that's kind of what I experienced last year. Like in the practice, I was like, all right, who can I like team up with and stuff? And you've got like 15 MGM guys going one way and like 6 Coyote guys going the other way. And I was just kind of out there. But this year I'll have my brother hopefully to help me out. But no, I'm just super stoked about it, man. Just haven't been racing in a while, and this should be kind of a fun little reintroduction to the sport.
And was it any kind of like, you know, anything that last year you show up or running I guess the draft probably stuck out as like a culture shock or just shock in general when you show up and load out Friday?
I think I was really overwhelmed, honestly, just showing up alone, like without my family, because they're kind of like my crutch, right? Like on the camera, I can say and do stuff, but I'm a very introverted person. So like, it was a little culture shock that I don't have like my brother to go talk to, like, you know, the fanboys of the vlog and stuff. But no, I mean, it wasn't too much. Honestly, I'd say the track is very similar to Newcastle in a lot of ways. And in terms of like the width, and it's very like sweeping. It's not like super tight, technical. And like a lot of the turns, I'm like explaining it to locals that'll also be going with us. And I find myself comparing it to a lot of the Newcastle turns anyway. So I think it'll fit right in for a lot of the locals from us.
And Paul, you mentioned Zach. You got some heavy hitters. I'm going to give you a chance here to kind of highlight your list in a moment. But I know that you work with guys from the get-go, from their first test day in a go-kart. Do you have any first-timers that are running this event? And if so, what have you been kind of telling them to get them ready for an event at this level?
Well,
I don't think we have any first timers.
well, we've got some not necessarily first timers, but new to this place. Yes, first timers.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So you just want to keep them on the track. You want to make laps. You want to make good quality laps. You don't want, you know, chains breaking and stuff. And you just want a setup that a driver can maybe make small adjustments from. Not something that they sit in the go-kart and go out in the grid and be like, oh, what has Dad done now? What do I got to do to make this thing work? You know, you just want the kid's mind to stay in it most of the time. So that's kind of what we do with our younger, you know, not as experienced at Charlotte kids or young adults, for sure.
Right. And then we go from them. And then you got guys like Zach, where you're really just kind of smacking him over the head if he's not quick, you know, right? I mean, who do you got that you're really thinking you could get some wins from? Because I know you got a big group you got coming both under the MGM 10 and just running chassis.
We got Zach, Dylan Amundsen's coming up from Florida. He'll be under.
Which has been a very good hitter here as of late. I've been winning a bunch of cup kart races.
Levi Wilbur's coming down. We'll have Jamie Bradford, Eric Fagan.
Yeah, we have
there's a
Mike Skinner.
like
we've got Ken Paulson,
there
which
was
was
51 on the list.
Ken Paulson, which was our repeat winner from last year too.
Jesse
So
Quality.
we have quite a bunch of experience. We have some guys that likely might end up doing pretty good too. We have Connor Yonchuk, which is absolutely lights out at GoPro. We have a Parker Ball, which not many people know about, but we sure know about him, that can end up winning races. So thankfully, since we're at home, we feel good about our chances. I mean, it's not us going to win, because you can't just go win these things. It's 10 of them that can win, but I think we'll run good, and I think we stack up as good as anybody for sure.
And then Ben, you said last year you came down, you're without your family, you ran with the AM karting guys, Mick Gabriel. I mean, they're quick, they're going to be probably up there in the mix in every class. They got Mick in, and some of their drivers have been coming along really well as well. Are you guys going down as a big pilgrimage, or are you pitting with them, or what is your setup this week?
No, so it'll be just Dad Casey and I will be doing our own thing, and I've got obviously texted with a lot of people that we're friends with either in the Indy area or kind of all around the country. Some people that have just talked to us. We're going alone, but we intend on having a lot of people kind of mingling in and out. And we tried to pit near some people, and we got to do something to compete with these big MGM armadas they've got here. So we're definitely going to be sharing information and trying to find some draft buddies out there.
Then you have Levi, or you have Eli Fox. I'm sure he'll appreciate the ride down. So you and Eli can hook up for sure.
Well, I'm just hoping to keep up with Eli this weekend. That kid's pretty quick.
Yeah. He's been running good, and I was hoping I was going to get to this race, and ultimately I wasn't able to get a crew up there or get myself up there for a little bit. I owe Eli a T-shirt because I did him dirty at the Grands, I think.
It was not on our day.
Yeah, it was not. I did him really bad, and see the thing about those videos is we were cranking them out like week of the race, and it was like 2 full 8-hour days of sitting at it, going back through footage. You start off with 15 minutes because we try to film every lap and every corner that we can reach to with the zoom, because you just never know when the pass for the lead's going to happen, when the leaders are going to junk it, when something happens. And then you go back through, you find it, cut that down, cut the bad shots out, go through, announce over it. And then, of course, we have all the interviews that we do, right? So you want to cut the interviews up so it's all entertaining, because you walk it through and it's 30 minutes. Well, that was boring. Me and Paul were just talking about, what the track's like, and it just got slow, so. So cutting that up and having a good highlights video, man, it took me a while, and I'm not that talented at editing. I'm very lucky now that we have some amazing. Yeah. We have some amazing partners that help us out. Obviously, we have our partners here with this show and some guys that work behind the scenes to help me make this stuff happen. But that was a lot. And then we ripped out Grands, and Grands I wanted to go really big for. And if you look back at the video, I think it's one of our longest videos because we covered every single class. We at least had a little bit of every single main, and then we had every heat for medium, including the LCQ. So you had heat 1, AB, heat 2, CD, heat so 6 total heats, LCQs, and then mains for every group, and then going through and basically doing that process for all of them was
a lot of work.
Everything. And I missed it. I should have proofread it. You spend all that hours working, and then I didn't proofread. So that just goes to show why we get it.
He also runs different decals, so.
Hey, don't feel too bad, because we had to. When you asked if we could be on the show, we actually had to have our IT guy come from Illinois today to help us. Don't feel too bad, because we needed help too. But thankfully, he drove 13 hours to get here. But he was coming to Charlotte. But he came in here and made sure
a day early.
Made sure the microphone was working and the camera, and made sure I was bald still. So
yeah.
Well.
Closing thoughts here, Aaron. I can't remember if you ended up making it out there last year. Did you? I know I've been having you quiet over here with me. Did you?
No, I didn't end up getting out there. I think I was just at. I don't remember. I can't remember if I was at a race or what I was doing. I didn't make it out there, but the last 2 years I've really wanted to get out there and run that race. I ran the Grands once back in 2019, and then I've coached the last 2 years at the Grands. I've really wanted to get some 206 racing in, especially now that I'm cutting back on my racing. And working with drivers more 206, nice low maintenance way to stay in the seat. And I've really wanted to get out there, but this year, obviously with Orlando, it just hasn't worked out. Maybe next year, hopefully next year scheduling works, but I'm trying to get something set up for at least getting out in there at some point.
And I guess we can kind of move on from here and go into maybe a little more closing thoughts going into the event. Obviously, Ben, you've probably got a million stanchions because you got to keep all the YouTube followers out, all the big vlog fans away from the pit area. No one's allowed inside the trailer, right? What do you got to say to everyone following you?
Yeah, no, I appreciate all the fans. Love you guys coming up. But I just appreciate a little privacy. It's tough being on the same level as the Kardashians, but I get what they mean with the paparazzi and stuff out there. It'll be tough, but no, in all seriousness, come up, say hi. We'd love to talk with all you guys. And yeah, I'm just super excited to see everybody and get back in it.
And Paul, April, you guys are working hard. Like you said, you got people that obviously help make that whole operation work, but a little shameless plug, of course. And, how many do you have this weekend, actually? What the last question I'd have?
51 entries?
53. Yeah, we have 53. Wow. And a little backstory on us, Xander. I mean, her and I do this because we love it. We don't do it because we're big or we're trying to make money, but
it's definitely a small
son of a gun. We got a lot of work to do this weekend, and we are damn proud of what we've accomplished the last 3 or 4 years for sure.
I will be pushing go-karts back and forth to the grid this weekend. We're going to be so busy.
and if we're lucky to slip up and maybe win a class or kid karts, or maybe I might run kid karts to try to win maybe that class. But
they might ask to see your burst.
It's a big deal to try to win one of these, man. Just on our side, like it is for the guys in Orlando, to win one of those races with all those people, it means something, especially to the kids or even the younger adults. It's important, and everybody puts effort into it, man. Everybody's been working all winter, and everybody's prepared and doing everything they can, and it's for the love of the sport, and to win one of these things would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's going back. I mean, that's why it was so worth it for me to, have those days, especially when we did the Charlotte race last year. I think that was like our 4th week in a row, or no, it was the first of 4 weeks in a row. So, go there, film all week, edit all weekdays the next week, and then go do the same thing week after week after week, which was gnarly. But you just know, and it was the same mentality I had from the announcing, is like, at any big race, even club racing, is still hard to win. Knowing how much effort it takes to win, knowing how hard and, how you're spending every single dollar and penny you have to try and go a little bit faster and make things possible to get to more races. When you do win, like, I know how big that is, even if you just podium or get to run up front, and how much that meant to me as a kid. And, the last thing I'd want to do is not hype up that moment any more than I possibly could. So if it's working more hours, or if it's just getting loud on the microphone and really hyping it up on the PA, I think that stuff's worth it, because you could just see people light up from first podiums and first wins and first top 10s or first main event made. If you're talking Grand Nationals, it's like you said, everyone's working hard. And, for us here, that it's trying to highlight as many as we can. That's why we do those banners at the bottom. It's why I end up a little scatterbrained sometimes with the mic off, but it's tough, man. And it'll be cool to see who can come out on top, because like you said, it's going to be a big show, 300 entries. So best of luck to you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming on, Ben, Paul, April, Aaron, and I. We got a little more to do, because there's the other half that's going to be coming, another 300 racers going a little further south. So as always, KC Happy Hour, we do got to give our partners a little bit of a shout and a little bit of love. We're going to let our guests go. You can send in any more questions you've got, and we'll make sure to answer them as the show goes on. We're hoping to get Series Administrator Tim Koyen on in here, while Aaron and I talk a little bit of shop at the USPKS event that is coming up later on here, and then we'll sign off a little before 9 p.m. So stick with us, guys, here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and good luck to all of you that are going to be headed out to Charlotte for the CKNA SpringNats.
Kart Store USA is a kart parts supplier that racers and retailers can count on when they need reliable advice and service. We focus on servicing all racers with honesty and pride while maintaining customer satisfaction. We carry a full stock of Kart Republic and Tony Kart chassis, as well as IAMI and Vortex Rock engines. We've also got a host of other parts available and in stock, such as products from Rev Performance Materials, Jekko Racing Seats, and more. We have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. And on top of that, if your order exceeds $200, shipping is on us. Check out all we have to offer today by visiting us online at kartstore-usa.com. As the Western importer of the Praga and Formula K chassis brands, Leading Edge Motorsports is a high-performance kart shop and race team with a simple mission: teach others the joy of high-performance driving, supply our customers with the highest quality products and services, and most of all, win races. With our remarkable racing inventory, expert services, and top-ranked national-level team to back it up, we'll help to get your new kart racing package up and running fast. From arrive and drive service to kart preparation and driver coaching to the parts you need to get you back on the racetrack, Leading Edge Motorsports is the industry answer.
I'm Billy Vincent, owner of MPG Motorsports. What we do at MPG is we try to keep it a nice, fun family atmosphere, try to combine sort of the the bigger things and of the bigger teams and the professionalism down with sort of some of the fun, sort of family-oriented atmosphere. We try to not only develop drivers, but also the parents and the families for just in knowledge in general in motorsports. It all starts in karting. What we try to do is try to help the drivers, the moms, the dads understand the sport of motorsports in general, not just karting, but what it takes to get all the way up through. Whether you end up wanting to be a driver or a mechanic or an engineer, we can help you with that, and that's what we're here for. If you're interested in joining us at MPG, our home base is at Whiteland Raceway Park in Indianapolis, and you can contact us at info@willpowerkart.com, and one of our great people will reach out to you, and we'll try to put the best program together.
All right, guys, welcome back here. Aaron and myself are super stoked because we do have signed on, and hopefully we got a quick audio check. Tim, can you hear us over there?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I got you loud and clear, man. I cheaped out. I'm actually not just a couple rooms down from you at the Floridian. We're a little less of a place, but we're here. We got you on. Obviously, this weekend, biggest USPKS event in history, already off pre-entries. How stressed are you? Are you less stressed now that you're here? Are you feeling excited about tomorrow, or are you just going to go to bed early and try to get up at 4 a.m.?
I'm not a 4 a.m. guy, so that's not going to happen. No, I think, am I less stressed here or at home about this? I think here probably a little bit less because now we know what we're up against. And at home it was kind of like, is this ever going to stop counting up? And, it's trying to make provisions to get in extra people and things like that, and trying to get in those extra entries so that everybody gets an opportunity to compete. And, of course, our big concern is that, we have people that want to campaign the championship. If you don't start here, it's kind of hard to do that for the rest of the season. So we want to make sure we can get as many in as we can.
Yeah, that was obviously the big concern over the winter. I mean, I wasn't involved. I chatted with you a little bit about it. I knew the hardship you guys were coming into because we already started to hit that bubble at GoPro and at Newcastle. We've touched numbers like this a little bit before, and now we've got kind of really went right through the gate of having every class over the normal cap where we're comfortable, trying to find that balance, and then trying to work through the timeline of if we're going to do 2 main event days, there's only so much time. We move qualifying to Friday. The biggest 3 classes get the LCQs. I mean, how much kind of, time and effort, I'm sure a lot went into trying figuring out the format for this year.
Well, countless hours went into trying to sort the format for this year. And one of the things that USPKS has really always been good at, I think, is just getting opinions from the participants, from the racers and from the teams that put in their time. And so, we tried a couple different options. We said, hey, what if we qualified on Friday instead of on Saturday and Sunday? What if we ran 1 final instead of 2? What if we did a couple other things? And, it was kind of like on the fence about whether we should do 2 finals or 1. And we settled on the 2 final format for this year. Going forward, it's going to be hard to maintain that with this kind of numbers. Now, last year, our Ocala event was our biggest event of the year. It was same situation where we were at the track right before Rock Cup. And we've been working together with Rock a little bit, to try to plan these things so that we can make the most for the racers. They can get that extra benefit of not having to travel so much, get that track time. And it certainly has paid off well for us and hopefully as well for Rock. But, we dropped off a little bit after our first event last year. And so, I don't want to say that that this event is unexpected. I mean, I think we're going to be right in what we were looking at. We were talking about 325 maybe being what the final number ends up being for entries. And we're at 315 right now. And I'm already taking phone calls about people saying, hey, we didn't get registered. We didn't realize it was this big. We didn't realize you guys were going to fill up. And so, we're going to have some walk-ups. And the crazy part is we've only got like 308 drivers. So there's only like 7 people doing double duty. So, I mean, this is legit. You go look out in that pit area and it is crammed full. And that's become really the defining factor in the last year or so about where we can go race. Where do we put everybody? And the rigs are not getting any smaller and, good, bad, or otherwise, the teams are getting bigger. And that really helps the paddock area because If you fit 25 carts under a big team tent that would otherwise take 25 pit spaces, that's often ends up being a way better deal for, the parking situation. And it's sad, but the parking is kind of dictating a lot of where we race right now.
Right. Orlando, I know I've talked with Andre a lot throughout last year. He's got the lot across the street ready for car parking. He worked to try and pave more and more alleyways. He's done a whole lot of improvements to his racetrack to get big racing back there. Was it you? Was it Mark? How did the discussion kind of start to get the foot back in the door with Orlando? Was it kind of already maybe looking at before Ocala shut down, or was it like right after that we have to stay in Florida and then you got hooked up with Andre?
No, Orlando's really been on the radar for years. The problem was the situation that Andre had with his parking. He had rented out his parking lot or part of his parking lot for commercial use. It wasn't available, and as that ran out, we had even discussed this, multiple years ago, that when that ran out, he would be, excited to get back on the program again and get on the schedule. So really, it's been kind of boiling for a couple of years. And the timing just happened to work out with Ocala wrapping up their historical run and Orlando getting in the position where they're ready to accept races again. And Andre's been awesome. I mean, Andre's been just absolutely great to the series. He's worked with us on everything, and he's been very accommodating, and he really wants to have a multi-year commitment from the USPKS. And I feel like this event is headed that way. It's really hopefully this is something we can do again in the future. And first, we got to get through this weekend, and hopefully that all goes smoothly. And I think it will. But yeah, I think Orlando could be another, potential multi-year deal. And that always makes it easier. When you go to a new venue, there's a whole lot of things you're trying to figure out. And so being able to revisit a venue makes it a whole lot easier in terms of, who's doing what, where are we getting this from? There's a lot of things, a lot of loose ends that you have to collect in order to put the event on. And so going to a new venue like this one was particularly stressful. You have to figure out where you're going to get porta potties from, where you're going to get golf carts from, where are you going to get park people, are you going to need a shuttle, or, all these things. There's all kinds of crazy little things you don't even think about that come up, and how are you going to feed the workers, things like that. Hopefully this works out well this weekend, and hopefully there's an opportunity to go forward with it. Mark is really the point man. Mark Coates, the series owner, he's the point man at the schedule. And I'm more of a, advice giver when it comes to that kind of stuff. This is good. And I'll look at the contract and say, there's questions. These are things that we may want to look at. But really, when it comes to where do we go race, it's Mark that is deciding and working it out.
Yeah, so let's flesh that out, because series administrators kind of a lesser known term, I would say, in terms of karting versus race director, tech director, flagman. So what's your last couple months look like? And then obviously what's this weekend look like? Whereas unlike in previous years to kick off the schedule, you're not on the microphone as well. Yeah,
well, for the past, 4 or 5 years, I've been the series administrator, and I did all of the backside stuff, getting the registration stuff ready, creating the timeline. That's one of the biggest jobs I have, is creating the schedule and timeline. And then stuff related to that, all of the stuff that goes into the driver packets, create all that kind of stuff. And then when I get to the track, mostly it's just being on the mic, as you're well aware of how that all goes. It's a busy day. Once things go live on, in our case, Friday afternoon, there's nothing else going on. You're on the mic. And so that was about where I, would end it. I would help do registration on Friday and Thursday. And so now this year, with the addition of the Kart Chaser program to the series, I am no longer on the mic. So I am now the operations manager. And so I'm doing some other things in addition to that, chasing down where golf carts go, trying to figure out where to put people who didn't send in parking reservations. Things like that. Going to get ice for the coolers. Big job today. But yeah, those are the kinds of things that go on. It's just pretty much everything, take people around, show them where things are, help get people situated. that kind of stuff is a lot of what I'm doing right now. And I do have one more important job that we're probably going to get to eventually, but I'm actually going to be the driver's steward for this event.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I was going to lead us next is talking about the driver steward protest official. So that's new. So haven't had it before in the series. What's that going to look like this weekend?
So the driver's steward came from the desire to get an opportunity for people to ask questions in between races. So previously the program was if you didn't like a penalty, you had a bumper penalty, you had a track penalty, and you didn't have a lot of options during the race day. Basically, we only really had the ability to do a protest at the end of the day because there really wasn't an official that was available to the racers during the day. So what we've done here is we've done a couple things. One is we've created the role of the driver's steward, and for the time being, it's going to be me. We'll see how that goes. And I am going to handle any reviews of bumper penalties. And it's going to be pretty cut and dried where you come up, you say, hey, I got a bumper penalty. I don't think I deserved it. Here's why. And you fill out a little form, very basic. You pay a little deposit, and you bring your video. And I'm going to look at the video, and I'm going to say, you know what? This looks like maybe this really wasn't your fault. Maybe it wasn't anything you could do to avoid this. And we're going to take it away, and we're going to give you your money back, or we're going to say, I don't really see, this kind of looks like you brought this upon yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's going to be the end of it. And you're going to get one chance. And if you fail, you don't get another chance for the weekend. So you're going to want to make it count. Okay. So you get one bumper review for the weekend. Unless it's successful, then you can get another one. But if it's unsuccessful, you're done. So you don't want to come up because you got a 2-position penalty in happy hour. And, you had to start 2 spots back in qualifying. You want to make it count. And then for like trackside penalties, I'm really going to be more of a facilitator. You say, hey, I got this penalty. I think it was unfair. I want to explain my side of the story. I want to show somebody the video. I mean, if you want to show me the video, I'll look at the video and say, yeah, you might have something here, or you're probably just wasting your money. And if they persist and say, hey, I want to protest it, then I will help them get a protest going and get an official to look at it. And what we'll do is we'll get an actual race director off the track to look at it in between sessions. So we're adding to the officiating staff in order to have it so that we can bring somebody off the track in order to look at these things in between races, because it can be frustrating. You got a penalty and, sometimes it is your fault. Most of the time, maybe it is. Sometimes it isn't. What people see isn't always, it's a matter of perspectives. And so we don't want people to be unfairly penalized and have no way to say, can you at least look at it and say, here's my side of the story. And so that's what we're trying to fix. We're trying to make people feel better about that situation. And, be kinder, gentler people.
Yeah, I was gonna. I love that you're doing it because you're the guy that's been probably, and I think I think you get more respect, when you finally don't look like you're 5 years old like I do, because I could never get away with the jokes that you're able to say on the microphone when stuff happens on the racetrack. Have you told yourself you're going to dial it back? Because I feel like you're more you are what you are, you see what you see, and you get what you get kind of guy. Like, someone comes up to you and then they clean a guy out, on the video, and they're like, my bumper didn't go in. I mean, what's Tim Koyen, driver steward, going to say to that right there?
I'm going to say I give that like a 7 for cleaning that guy out.
I like it.
But if you want to pay the $200 and have an official look at it and give you his score, you can go right ahead.
Yeah.
No, for the bumper, we're just going to do it. I mean, we're not going to go up to another level. We're just going to say, hey, yes or no, because we don't want to get bogged down in having a line of 10 people there trying to get every penalty looked at. It's not worth it for anybody. And we're not here just to generate revenue from it. There is really just so everybody doesn't show up. I mean, Aaron will bring all his whole tribe up here and they'll try to get their bumpers looked at, and we'll just be like, hey. So no, I think I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying for sure. And for me, I'm an old guy. Sometimes people tell me that I'm intimidating. I don't know why. I'm more like a teddy bear kind of guy. So
I think the shades help too. You know, you've got your shades on, you wear your hat, and you're just purse lip. You know, you have a business face. You know, and I definitely would get probably a lot more people yelling at me too. I think
that's
my
drivers meeting look.
Definitely less.
So I'm trying to get everybody to listen at the drivers meeting. That's my look.
Oh,
when I'm up in the tower, you see me up in the tower. I'm more laid back then.
Much more. Well, you know, this week, one thing that we're doing that's going to be super fun, and we're trying it out, and I want to have it for the crowd. And Tim, I want you to get, you know, if you, I know you've looked at the entry list. I don't know how well you'll be able to remember it, but Aaron and I, we at least have some picks this week, starting with the post going up tomorrow. We're just going to give away some merch. There's no gambling or anything, but we are launching what hopefully will be a lot of fun for us this year at the major races we're going to go to. We're going to be doing a Kart Chaser Fantasy League, which if I can get it to pull up, for some reason it won't pull up over here, so I'm going to have to find a way to show it. But we're going to run through the X30 Pro class. Of course, everything's just falling apart tonight. Oops, there we go. Cycle us back around. For X30 Pro, Aaron and myself are going to run it through, and to give you guys an idea of what the Kart Chaser KC Fantasy League is going to look like this year for all of the major events we're headed to, including all 4 US Pro Kart Series events and the USPKS assisted sanctioned event, the IAMA USA Grand Nationals, the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour, and both Rock Vegas and SuperKarts USA Supernats. We're going to have pick'ems each weekend. So we have the entire X30 Pro entry list loaded into our system. It'll be ready to go up just right now, a Google form and a Google spreadsheet. Working on getting more stuff a little more built out, but it'll auto-calculate the points. You'll get 5 picks. You'll get 4 picks that are regular drivers, anyone off the entry list. You can pick whoever you want. There's no limits. You can pick all good guys. You can pick all your buddies, whatever you want to do. The 5th pick is going to be a rookie pick, and that's someone by our standards that is, in our definition, a first-year X30 Pro Division driver or 125cc Pro Division driver when it comes to the rock races. So, Aaron, I know you have yours. The junior, you know, you've got about 19 from the way I did our standards rookie picks here on the list, and then we've got the full list of 56 we've got lined up. So, Aaron, I'm going to hand it off to you. Break down your top 5 guys that you've got picked here, pegged for Orlando.
All right, well, we'll start with 2 drivers that I didn't pick. This was Alessandro De Tullio and Marian Kremers, specifically because I think they're just going to take each other out in the race. I think it's been a history of the past Winter Series. I think they're just going to run into each other at some point. They're not going to get a good finish at least one of the days. That's just my feeling on it. And then my first pick is going to be, as much as I don't want to say hate, as much as I really don't want to just go with the easy pick, I am picking Ryan Norberg because it's his home track. It's Ryan Norberg. He won the championship last year. He's won 4 Pro Tour championships in a row or something. I think that's what it was. Anyway, I think you have to go with Ryan Norberg for one of them. And then after that, I have Jeremy Fletcher. Him and Ryan have been going at it, and 100cc at Rock Cup, and they've both been really strong over the winter. Diego Ramos is in the list, and I picked him because he's been really, really going well at the Scusa and the Rock events as well. I actually have 2. Actually, I might have 3 rookies in here. I have Cameron Weinberg as one of my other picks, kind of as maybe a surprise. He's been really strong. Jenna, he's been really strong in that CRG that he's got, and I think he's going to do really well this weekend. And the last one is actually Paul Bocuse, who I think he's looked really good. I think he's going to get a good season started first weekend of the year, and he's just going to keep going with that. So that's what I've got right now for my 5 picks.
I like him. So, Tim, I know you've been working all day, so I'm not going to put you on the spot where you got to pick 5, but let's go ahead and have you pick some notables. If you want to go 5, you can, or a top rookie you think that's going to do really good. Keeping your eye on our headline class we got this weekend. Who are some names guys should watch out for, maybe put on their top 5 for the Fantasy League?
Well, you're probably going to be surprised at this, but okay. I really don't pay that much attention. I watch the races. You know, when I'm announcing, I watch all the races, and it's just one to the next, to the next, and it's a grind. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
But I would say, it would be really difficult to bet against Norberg. I mean, what are you going to do? He's the favorite for sure. In my opinion, there are definitely going to be some other good drivers there, and certainly any of those could win as well. And I think, Fletcher has to be the rookie. I mean, in my mind, he has to be the rookie choice. So I think, it's going to factor in with those 2 for sure. As far as the rest of them, I mean, there's definitely a lot of great drivers. I mean, for sure, Paulie is going to be in there in competition as well. But there's going to be, I went down the look and I was like, oh, Kramer's is another one. He's going to be there. DeTulio is going to be there. The same things Aaron said, it's like those are all guys that are going to be there. But for whatever reason, somehow when the checkered flag comes down, Snorberg is always there annoying everybody. And he just, he may be fifth with 3 laps to go. And then somehow, some way, he makes his way to the front. And so that would be, he's going to have to be my pick if I were to pick somebody to win. And I think Fletcher could easily be right there as well.
Right. Well, like Aaron said, Orlando's Ryan Norberg's home track. I think he's a great pick. There's nothing wrong with that. It's also the home track of Jeremy Fletcher, our top rookie, who has been up there. Diego Ramos has a lot of laps around here. I was joking with Paulie Massimino right before we got out of the racetrack today when we were just getting in to drop a few things off and set up. He's like, man, is Morgado running? I was like, no, we don't have Morgado on the list. Oh, thank God. I hope he went home. I was like, well, Ramos is pretty quick too. The Brazilians are pretty good. Man, he needs to go home too. So I can tell you the American guys, they're tired of getting their butts handed to them by the South Americans. But I think Diego Ramos is definitely my dark. I don't even know if you can call him a dark horse because he already won a race this year at the Winter Series. He's definitely got to be in contention for your top 5 picks. Obviously, Norberg has a massive U.S. following. He's at his home track. He's been testing all week. He's been a big proponent and a big cheerleader to help push Andre to try and to get more racing back to the racetrack. He's been obviously working here and coaching here since he began his senior days. You go back, Orlando Kart Center is on his Tony karts when he won his very first SCUSA Pro Tour back when he was only, I think, 16, maybe 17 years old. There's a few other names, though, that I think are in the field. Obviously, Aaron, you touched on Oliver Hodgson. He was kind of hovering the top 10 at a couple of USPKSs last year. That's a guy who is a world championship level driver with J3. They're hot off a really good weekend, beating Jake Drew, who ran top 5 at Supernat. So I think he's going to be a lot stronger in 2022 than where he even was in 2021 when it seemed like they were just kind of getting going. And even then at the USPKS event at Newcastle, he was up there in the hunt in the top 5. Your RPG group's going to be good. Nate Cicero, I think, should be really solid here. I know he struggled at Homestead. He admitted that was probably his worst racetrack when we talked to him off the mic and off the broadcast down there. AJ Myers as well, grew up around Orlando, Florida. The Magic Kart guys have been doing a lot more R&D on the chassis. I feel like with at least a lot more testing with the chassis. Andrew's been in the go-kart a good bit. So I think that he'll be a contender here, but for sure, you have to have Diego Ramos. You have to have Marian Kremers. You want to pick Ryan Norberg. It's a safe pick. He's like Tim said, he's not going to have the he may have the outright pace here this weekend, but he's more so known for being one of the more smart, calculated drivers. Very rare as DA finish. I think all those are good. Out of the rookies, Jeremy Fletcher's a great pick for a rookie. Frankie Mossman was kind of silent at Winter Series, but not in a bad way. He was top 10. So, he's a rookie this year. And then, I think the last group that needs to be touched on for sure, and I think these guys are coming up, all of our drivers that we had on the show were complaining at how good of a jump the Rawlson Performance Group guys got on everybody else with the X30 switchover last year. And it seemed like the RPG Cosmics, the AVP motors they had were really, really good. When we got to the end of last year, the new Speed Lab Racing Engines group with Mario Lafredo and Mike Speed looked really good. And Jack Jeffers was really impressive at arguably the strongest X30 field of the year, which was at GoPro, I felt like. And Jack in his first senior race ran top 10. So Jack is going to be up there. Cameron Weinberg was in the top 10 both days at Homestead and was decently close in St. Petersburg, was a little bit further off, but he's been to this track before. He's been to Homestead before. That kid was fastest in final practice at Homestead as well. So I think with both of them under the same tent, this will be the first Miami weekend. Both drivers are going to be together, so they're going to have 2 data points. So I kind of have as my rookie picks both Jeffers and Cameron Weinberg. That should look really, really good, and I'm really excited to see them. So that's at least on the X30 field. When you go to the other classes, I mean, it's even more wide open. I like doing the X30 stuff, number one, because obviously it's our biggest paying class, so it's the class we promote. That's normally the last one of the day, and it's a little easier because you get more consistent characters. But there's so many new faces. Like you said, Tim, it's hard to keep track because you're running 7 major races all day long, and now we're going to have half the field split up in pre-finals. KA is just as big. There's a lot.
There is one more that I think deserves mentioning in X30 Senior, and if running with Speed Concepts Racing, and that's Zachary Hollingshead. Zachary's a past champion in USPKS competition. He's always runs well. We haven't seen him for a while. And so he's going to be one of the older drivers in the class. But I think, he's set up with the right team to get to the front. So he could be a competitor here as well.
He could actually be really, really massive for a Florida guy. I mean, he's run the Florida State Series owned by Eric Jones, the Sunshine State Karting Challenge for the last couple of years. And like you said, the last full-time season he darn near won the championship over Jarsicrack at the end of Jarsicrack's four-peat in 2019. Came up about, I think, 10 points short by Newcastle, but won one of the 2 days at Ocala, ran decent at Mooresville, and was in the lead group of 6 both days at Newcastle for the finale. So that's a guy that our new audience that's following just off KC, and that's paying attention to that class more, you may not recognize, but like you said, Tim, that's another really good dark horse pick, and that makes it 3 by my count. Actually, you're right. I didn't know he was with SCR, but I should have because I saw him with them in December. 3 big Speed Concepts picks. So, Aaron, are you second guessing your top 5 now that we've gone through more of them? Because I can.
Dude, I've been second guessing them. I'm looking through this list. There's about 20 drivers you got to be picking on this list. I've been just going through here. I mean, we brought up, I was considering at one point and making these picks. I mean, I was thinking about Novo as well. I was thinking about Pauly. I was thinking about even Dante Yu. Like Dante Yu has been really fast for a long time now. There's just drivers all over this list that I'm like, man, those are drivers that you could pick. Cicero was another one. Cicero, I was thinking about right before there. He's one of the last minute ones where I was like, do I pick him? Do I pick Bocuse? And it's just everywhere. They're all so strong.
Yeah, and you go back. I mean, there's a few names here that in the few starts they made last year made a big splash. Obviously, Dalton Haynes made a big splash at Miami Grands at his home track at GoPro. He's one of the few privateers running X30 Pro. So if you want to make Tim's day a little bit more stressful down the road and pump up more individual trailers to pack the house out. They don't even have a trailer. They rent a U-Haul van when they go run club races. And I don't know how they got the go-kart down here because I know in Vegas, they put the go-kart on top of his older brother Roman's ar and drove across the country. So,
well, I can tell you that coordinating their pit space was a little bit of a struggle, but yeah,
I'm sure it was.
I don't remember what they were driving, but we had multiple conversations about what they were going to be camping in or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and last pick I definitely want to make sure we give some love to is Victor Franzoni. I mean, you got a guy that's a multi-time open-wheel champion, made it up to Indy Lights, has raced sports cars, and if we go back to his last USPKS start, that was at Ocala. He sat on the front row in X30 Pro that weekend. On a Ralph Schumacher Praga kart, no less, which hasn't seen the front hardly ever. And Praga in general was on a completely different frame when Brandon Jarsicrack ran really good on it years past. So another guy that is just a freaking shoe, and it should be really, really good. So it should be really good racing. Tim, are you going to get to at least enjoy it a little bit more now that you're not having to talk for 12 hours straight, or do you feel like you are going to be more busy?
Well, depending on how many bumper penalties there are, I think might have a factor in it. I'm actually looking forward to trying to watch a little bit, like actually watch the races and not just watch the leaders, because that's a lot of what you're doing when you're announcing, unfortunately. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, why don't you talk more about me? And I'm like, well, I would, but you're 23rd and I'm trying to, watch the top 10. And so, it gives you something to shoot for. Try to get to the top 10 and we'll talk about it. But I do try to talk about people, and I know you do as well, especially when they're making big moves through the field and that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's helpful to have somebody with you when you're announcing that can poke you and say, hey, somebody's up 12 spots. And that's the deal with working alone. You don't always have that. And so I've actually watched some of the broadcasts that you guys have been doing from some of the rock races earlier, and kind of enjoyed the having two people thing, and it was interesting. It adds an extra dynamic to it, and so that's something that I haven't done very much. I've worked alone probably 95% of the time, other than when we get up there and we do a race together or something like that. But yeah, it's I'm hoping to watch some more racing and just hopefully make sure everybody has a good time, and that's what it's all about. We want them to have fun, and that's why they're there. So that's part of my job, is to hopefully help everybody have fun. And if I can squeeze in some race watching in between, I will, for sure.
Yeah,
There's no
I mean,
better track in the U.S. to watch a kart race at than Orlando. The viewing area there for spectators is the best.
Yeah,
Although
that's
Bailiff's track is pretty nice too, but it's not as extensive as Orlando. So,
no,
Which track is that?
that's Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Oh, Cincinnati. Yeah, that was really nice to watch at too. I like going
It's
out
really
there and
nice.
stars.
It's just not very big. You know?
Yeah. Well, they're extending it right now, I think, right? Aren't they?
Well, they're doing
aren't
a
they
lot
getting
of
that
work
done?
there. A lot of work there, and we're looking forward to bringing our regional Route 66 series there this summer as well. So that'll be my first time working at that track.
That's a fun track. It was pretty rough the last couple of years. That's a really fun track. I like going out there and running that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I've gotten the story on what they're doing as far as they dug the whole thing up, so and they're redoing it and extending it and all that. So it should be good.
Yeah, if it comes out everything, especially if he can get a few more of those buildings too, where he can have one that's a nice dedicated, not only timing room, but well, I guess he has the timing room. I don't know if he's going to leave that or not. I forget from what he described to me, but he's looking at getting another building as well for spectators because he has the one building there for the country club. That's got a really cool view from the second story, and it's all flat, really. There's little humps, but it's not really elevation that hurts the viewing. But like you said,
There's a little dip at the end of it, but that's about it. And yeah, you can see a lot of the track. It's set up pretty nice. You can just look down and see everything.
Yeah, the only bad part is you're kind of looking from the end. You're looking down towards the faraway part. And if he does the scoring building over on the side where the plans say, and they can get some spectator viewing over that way, that would make it even better. It's going to be a cool track. I think you could be on the radar for some national races down the road. I really think so. He's got a lot of paddock space too.
Yeah. And quick question here, Carson Sauter. Yes, Route 66 kicks off at Newcastle. So it's not going straight to Cincy. It's Newcastle kicks it off. And it's also hitting there before the USPKS series does later in the year. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Cincy's great. Orlando, you can see, like you said, Tim, so for everyone, I mean, it's literally like a full L shape. You've got over half of the outer rim of the track where you can see. It's a flat racetrack, but there's still a lot of character to it and a lot of technical parts. So, pretty much the length of the entire paddock, guys are going to be able to watch this weekend, which will be cool. We were scoping out places. There's a lot of places to pass, so it's stressful where we're going to put our cameras this weekend to make sure we don't miss it. Because like you said, we always got to make sure there's something going on. And if it's anything like where I've seen racing here before, we're going to have probably about 6 passing zones, and it doesn't look like it because it looks pretty one-laned going into the final chicane, but there's always some last lap sends there, and there's normally really good crossover moves too if you block too much, especially in the lower horsepower classes like the minis, the micros, and the 100cc. So we're trying to make sure that we've got at least a really good elevated shot that can kind of see going into the final sector and the final corner, and we're tinkering with a few places, and then they're getting some low shots. They've got the really tight hairpin, which is always chaos. And then turn 1, a little bit of passing, turn 4, a lot of passing. And there's one really cool zone that I really like to see some passing, which is before their long straightaway onto a hairpin, before the longest straightaway of the racetrack. They have the flat out bend, very similar to Ocala turn number 1, a kink off to the left-hand side, and you kind of take the kink, you hit the curb a little bit, you swing back out for a 180-degree corner, and guys go from following them to cutting out to the inside, and it makes it, to me, it's one of those fun passes where guys just like kind of move out of the way when you're on your note, when your nose is on their bumper, they just swipe off to the left and you stuff it down the inside, and I'm hoping we get some really good angles of that, so I'm really excited for having a massive field there. But the best part that you should be excited about, Tim, is that really the first 3 corners, from my experience of seeing races here, are not nearly as bad as some other places we go to. So with 45 go-karts, the first 3 corners normally are like mid-range power. So you don't stack them up at the end of the,
I was going to ask you about that.
To die. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you what your experience has been like. That turn 1, right after you come to the start there, that's a turn. I mean, it's wide, but that's a turn. Yeah. And that immediately I looked at that and was like, I wonder if they really stack up bad here or not. But
yeah, you'd think so. And there have been, but those were back in the days before the pushbacks. When they had Winter Tour there years past, there would be like the loading up on the bumpers, and then they'd get into the corner because you do need to brush the brakes off a start there. but you don't get on the binders hard. I mean, it's probably the same level of braking in the first corner that you would at Homestead going backwards the way they ran in February. Homestead going forward, especially the old direction, you got on the binders, I feel like, a lot harder than what you did going to Orlando turns 1 and 2. And it's such a wide flowing corner. And then it goes the line of where we're going to punch off, which obviously it's going to be on our race director team. Hopefully they keep that down by turn 1. I know Justin Dietrich is listening in here, and he's obviously coming in. And he knows he's officiated a bunch of races. I helped him when we ran the SSKC. Later, you can go down by turn 1, the better for the starts. But it flows pretty good for the start. And then really the only corner that you see any kind of stack ups besides maybe a spin in turn 1 would be into turn 4, because that is a really hard braking zone. But by then, you've already kind of sent them through the chicane. I think what I want to get a shot of is the shot of turn 3 with the curb there, because I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to jump through the grass. And, I think that's –
we're putting some barriers up there.
Yeah, that'll be an even better shot, because then I put it behind the barrier and see the barrier get blown out. We've already.
I was gonna say, who are you giving the camera that gets almost hit by a go-kart this weekend? Because I got Homestead, and that was quite an experience.
We'll see. We were supposed to have 2 elevated stations at the rock race at St. Pete, and one of them the company didn't bring like the last handrail, so the guy was down. Our team member was down to go up on like a half handrail, like 10-foot elevated station. And I said, no, that's not going to be good. I don't want to have our guys get knocked out this early in the year. It's like, I love compared to Supercross. Those guys have riders go down early in the season. I can't afford a camera guy to go down this early. We need to keep them going for the rest of the year. But I think the track will race good, Tim. I think that the first sector is pretty safe, to be honest. It's on par probably with GoPro turn 1, maybe a little bit better. And then just the biggest part is just turn 4 down there. But for the most part, we had 25 to almost 30 X30 juniors here without pushbacks September. And we didn't really have that many stack ups. So I think you'll be fine here with 40 with pushbacks for sure.
I'm hoping so. That'll be about the biggest group I think we'll have on track will probably be X30 Junior with 45 or 46. And, of course, that can be one of the most aggressive groups, but kind of is what it is. I mean, we were able to squeeze in 4 LCQs and give X30 Senior a spot and KA Junior and Senior a spot as well as Mini. And that helped a lot. And we could have, if I could have had time, would have done another LCQ. We could have got more X30 Juniors. We could have got micros. We turned away micros.
Yeah.
Because there's no time left in the day. So.
And I can't remember the last time we've had too many micros at a race. I mean, that's pretty
crazy
because
that's impressive. I remember it used to only be 25, 30 maybe on a good day. And so to be pushing 40 now is really, really solid for the future of the sport.
I think Rock is really strong, I think, in that age group. And I think that has something to do with it. We have a core group of, we're probably, I would say, have a core 30, 35 micros. And then you get the Rock people who just want to come and put some more time in, and and that just sort of pushes it over the top. But yeah, I agree. Having that many kids at that age group is great for the sport. And Mini we got over 50 entries there, 51, 52. So that some of the micro drivers decided to run Mini instead because they couldn't get in. So, but we'll say this. They're split groups, and there's going to be an LCQ. So there's really only going to be 26 carts, in most of the groups, which might be better than the 40 cart micro group. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Can you pull up this comment right here from Barry Hastings? Orlando's got lights. Why aren't we running at night? We got time.
They do have lights. They do, and it's going to be hot. But then Tim knows this. Tim, being the timeline guy, half of the time is answering a message that comes across on Facebook or an email saying, "Can you put my class done by noon on Sunday? Because I want to fly out at 5 p.m." So that won't work unless we go to a one main event Saturday night show. But it would be cool.
And that is something that is a potential for the future for sure. But yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, if you're going to do 2 finals, and that's really why we had to go to the Friday qualifying sessions. And, we toyed about what if we had 1 qualifying session and used it both days? Well, then it was like, well, What if you're broke in qualifying? Yeah, you're going to have a bad weekend. It's going to be a long weekend, and nobody wants that either. And so there's just so many things you're trying to do to maximize, both the track time and, the experience for people and the fairness. And the fairest thing to do and the what's going to give the best experience is just saying we can only take so many.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a theme that goes forward where we have hard caps and I'm sorry, you didn't make it. I cannot believe I had people calling me last night at like 9:00. Hey, we didn't realize the registration closed. Can we get in yet? No, you can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like we're open for 4 weeks, and like 2 days before the event, you just thought of this. I'm sorry, no.
Yeah,
it's full, and that's all you can do. Sometimes you just have to say, "I'm sorry." That's all there is.
I will say, for the scheduling thing, Stars does a one main event schedule, and they have qualifying 2 heats and then a pre-final and final, qualifying 2 heats on Saturday. I actually really like that format. I like the way that they do it. So it is something for you guys to maybe think about going forward. Is like the one main event format is pretty nice to do.
Yeah,
I like it a lot personally.
That would probably be the format we would have to use if we did that. The one thing right now, if you're in a split class, you don't race against everyone else in a heat race. You just race against half the class, which, it is what it is. If you were to go to a one final format, it would be nice if you could race against everyone else. But the only way to do that is to have 3 heats in order to get an AD, AC, AD.
To get it fair, Yeah. Otherwise, you do it how they did Summer Nats the year TJ ran. It was like A, B, C, but then there was one group that had fresher tires than the other group when they went out for the 2 heats they ran.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the way that Stars does it is it's fair. You just don't race against everybody else until you get to the final. So you might never race against somebody if you don't make the final, but that might be what we would end up having to do. I mean, another option is to kind of evaluate the classes and see which ones have the entries in them that want to go. And, who knows? People are always like, "Oh, you guys should put shifters in." Great. Get 40 of them that want to race and that are commit to the year, and then we'll try to figure out a way to put them in. But the reality is you can't get 40 shifters anywhere that agree on anything. So, it's like trying to get 40 people to decide where to go to dinner. It just doesn't work. So, I always bring up, okay, well, if the biggest, shifter group in the country can only get 20, we're not going to get 40. So it just is what it is. And, you can't be all things to everyone. At some point, maybe the series needs to be 2 series. Maybe do like Florida Winter Tour used to do, where they did the Rock weekend or the Rotax weekend and the Formula weekend. Maybe there's something like that down the road. I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah, it's tough to balance.
You might need some.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, you might need to get some creative ideas in there to get enough space in the schedule for everybody. Splitting up classes like that will be pretty tricky.
I spend a lot of time on the schedule. I mean, there's hours for every event, and it's, just trying to keep everybody happy, trying to be fair, trying not to make the one class be first every time or last every time. Like, oh, our flight was the last one out, last time. Do we have to be last again this time? Well, Xander wants you to be last because you're an X30. So notice I did change it so X30 was last for this event.
I do appreciate that. It makes it a lot easier to promote on our end to keep going all the way up. That was much appreciated. Those guys can complain all they want. They should be the last guys complaining. The guys complaining should be the guys that we don't push, that they send their moms after me for not posting enough pictures of them, especially the X30 Masters. I get a lot of X30 Master grandmas that are really mad that their X30 Master did not get posted. So sorry. But
the moms come after me too. I try to avoid them. They're the scarier ones, to be honest with you. They don't want to take reason.
They are. They are very scary. So it's something. I mean, it's the same with with the way we do the streams, and Tim, it too, right? Like, you're focusing on the top 10, and you don't want to miss the pass for the lead and be that dumb announcer that misses the biggest deciding factor in the race. It happens. But the moment you look away is when it does. When you go back and try to show some love further down the field, and it's not like an F1 race. F1 has to go through the field because their races are mostly boring. We've got races that are a good battle all the way through. And I say that in a good light because I think that their marketing and their media package and the way that they stream is obviously the model and the gold standard for everybody, because they're able to make they give you so much information. You can see how the field is spread out, the guys on different tire strategies, different, used to be different fuel strategies, not anymore, but different tire strategies, stop strategies with the graphics they have. And we don't have pit stops, so I don't have to worry about editing that in. But, they do a good job of storytelling the whole race, and then they have the opportunity to do that because things spread out. And that very rarely happens in a kart race. And I'm going to be very surprised if it happens at all this weekend with the amount of drivers that we have in the field, because platform's been good, just like the Rock platform's been good at having a mostly level playing field, about as close as you can get in top level motorsport. Where the X30 Pro, like we were talking just a little bit earlier, there could be, 20 guys that easily, at least 20 guys on that list we named that could win the race this weekend out of the 56. And that's not just saying they could get top 5. I mean, they could win if it's just a 10th or 2 there, or even in the pack if they're 5th with 3 to go, like Norbury, like you said. So
I would be surprised if you could get further back than about 6th place this weekend for X30 Senior, or really any of them. There's so many drivers in every class. Like, you're going to have the good drivers up there outside of maybe the top 10. Top 10 is the furthest back I think you're going to be able to go without missing something. It's going to be tricky.
The good part, at least, is that, we'll be able to zoom out and we'll have our leaderboard going. So we didn't get to have our leaderboard at the Rock races because they use a different timing system. We're going to be able to have it for the Rock race next week. Won't really be able to have it, weren't really able to have it because we're on different wireless networks, but we'll be on the same wireless network here at the racetrack. They will. So I think I've got it sorted where the Rock race will. But for the USPKS race, it should work perfect, because the only other time we had issues when we ran classes together. And well, Tim, as you know, there's no class small enough that we're going to be running together this weekend. We're going to divide them in half, which is a good problem. We
That's
do
a
have
good idea.
Let's
do X30 Senior multi-class racing. See how that works out.
Send all 56 and 58, I think, and send them out.
Yeah, something like that. It'll be a Newcastle special. Cool. They got a big enough track.
Well, so, and that, to be honest with you, that is not something that we're interested in doing again. We ran 60K seniors at Newcastle last time. We're not going to do that again.
Dude, that was a mess. I was struggling in that field.
Yeah, I mean, it detracts from the race. And I get that we want everybody to run, and I get that if you pay to race, you want to race. But the reality is, even if the track holds it, you can't officiate it very well. It's just too many people. And then it's a blender in the back or in the middle, and you're upset because you got wrecked. And it's like, and did anybody see it? No, because you can't watch 60 go-karts at once, and that kind of a thing. So that's really a shift in the way we want to manage the events going forward. And that's part of the reason for the caps. And you're going to see caps that are lower than you're used to, as far as what will allow for total entries, just because it doesn't make for good racing. It makes for, a big entry payroll. That's all it does. It doesn't make for good racing, and it's not fun for anybody. And so having the caps and having the LCQs is really a better way to do it. And honestly, the feedback we've gotten from people is like, yeah, we would actually rather do that. That's more fun for us too. If we don't, if you don't have the guy who's 59th fastest, somehow make his way into the final and then drive over the last 10 carts of the field in turn 1, because let's be fair, we've all seen that happen. And that's not great for anybody. It's not great for racing. It's not great for the officials, because, they feel bad. And there's, it's like, what are you going to do? You can't fix it. Don't fix that.
No, it was hard last year, right? I mean, even for a 30+ kart race, because there's just so much stuff going on. I mean, again, our broadcast cameras can't catch everything because we can't have 6 going at the same time on the screen without it being somewhat focused. And it's the same problem for an official. They're trying to watch the lead. If nothing's going to happen for the lead, they try to go back. They try to watch the next group, and then they try to watch the next group and the next group. And at least then sometimes you get sectionalized. And if you've got a good team, and then now this year we've got more video review and more people in place for this series. SKUSA has a massive team. And even still, when you put more than that many on track, you lose control of the horde. So it's tough. We did have a question come in related to that. This was from Ethan Goulart here. Going to you, Mr. Driver Steward. He's saying, what if you do after you pay the $200 after the protest? If you're successful, you get your money back, correct? For the $200 protest fee, Tim?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. That any of the protest fees, you always get your monies back if you're successful with it. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So again, that 200 is just a deterrent to keep everybody, and especially the crazy moms that have been coming and chasing after Tim.
You're going to be getting mom hate mail, Xander. Don't go down that road. This
I've got
offending all the four-cycle racers again, and we're starting something here.
No. Listen, that comment wasn't even by me. That was our boy Caleb. We love Caleb.
Yeah, I know. I heard about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Made its way through the ranks.
I'm sure it did. Hell, Mark is texting me now. So I'm waiting to get a text right about that. But we did have a few more. So Ethan McKay, I pulled this up a moment ago, asking if we'll ever introduce onboard live cameras for the main events like they do overseas. Stick them on some of the top drivers for the weekend that are willing to do so. Yes. We are working really hard. We got a little bit of a change up in the infrastructure in our system that we're using this weekend. That should allow us to even get more and more cameras in. Now, it costs a lot of money, and it already costs a lot. USPKS is obviously helping out. We've got sponsors that help out. We've got the memberships that help out to make it possible. So I'm not saying we're going to have 25 cameras and a 100-person crew here, but onboard camera is not nearly as expensive as putting another body out. So having those, that's 100% on the to-do list. I think we're pretty close to being able to do it. We're not going to be able to have it this weekend. I probably don't think we'll be ready, but I'm shooting to maybe have something like that ready. If not ready for the SCUSA Pro Tour in New Orleans, to be ready for the USPKS second round at Newcastle, because we'll have a couple-week gap before then. So I'm calling my shot. Could be wrong. Luckily, the show goes every week, so I can just delay it and hopefully people forget. But I'd like to get some onboards really soon, and I think we're close on the tech. We just got a little more tinkering to do and a little more testing. Let's see. We had a few other ones come in. This is actually a really good question. So, Tim, this is from TJ Nevels. With qualifying for both days on Friday, what happens if you wreck a chassis or blow up an engine in Saturday's final? How does that affect you for Sunday's grid for the pre-final?
That is a great question. So Sunday's grid for the pre-final is you're allowed to change an engine or a chassis without penalty. And a chassis without penalty. There's no penalty for having to change because of that. Yes, you qualified on a different engine if that happens, but because of the situation, there is no longer a penalty for changing if something like that happens. And actually, there wasn't really a penalty before usually, but there were instances where there might be. So, yeah, no penalty.
Sweet. Trailer Kart Tech, this is a great question. I just wanted to throw it up on the screen. Hey, Xander, why don't you post up about the kid kart mechanics? We're starting, Kid Chaser would get us, I think, in a lot of legal trouble and probably on the wrong type of list. But we can do Kid Kart Mechanic Chaser or something of the sort. So we'll work on that. We need to go back to the drawing board with the branding, and then we have a full Kid Kart Mechanic program coming out. So stay tuned, Trailer. And finally here, this was, let's see, you obviously got some more love there. Old JB's on here. JB's being a menace in the Facebook chat as he usually is, one of our regular viewers. But he's commending you for the caps, and I think, like you said, you're going to get probably a lot more compliments on that, which is good. And I appreciate all you guys coming in and chiming in, even without questions, just to give comments on here, because I know, Tim, you've watched some of the show, you've seen some of the comments and heard feedback. Mark is still going crazy on series. Listen, you guys listen and send your messages in, even if it's not to us, if it's direct to the series. However you do that, the more feedback they get, it makes it that much easier to make decisions. Because if the only feedback Tim was getting was, hey, open the cap up, we forgot to register, well, might have a little different race weekend here this weekend, right?
Yeah, that's fortunately not what we're getting. But yeah, it's always good. I mean, feedback anytime is good, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. We'll take it any way we can get it. We listen. We don't always agree with it, and it isn't always something we can do. But there are always people, that coming up with ideas. We're like, hey, you guys should do this. Like, yeah, you know what? That kind of makes some sense. Let's think about that, see how that would fit in. And I can't think of anything right now that just pops into my head that is something that kind of worked out that way. But, I mean, every step you take in the progression of the growth, it's been 10 years with this series. And, it all took off when we cut the thing back to like 3 events from the 5 that it was. And it just kind of blew up. But and ever since then, it's just been we're just trying to listen to what people have to say, what they like, what they don't like, and get rid of the one and get more of the other if we can, and seems like it's working okay right now. Things are going pretty well, but we want to keep that momentum going and hopefully this is the first of 4 good events for the season. I think it's going to be.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the next one here, the last question we'll put you on the spot for before we'll let everyone hop off for the night, because we've run a good bit, Aaron and myself. This one was from Trevor Marsha, and he was asking the value of a 3-day practice ban. Now, knowing that more guys are coming, I think this is a valid, probably another discussion topic that we'll probably talk more about throughout the year. The series gets bigger. We obviously have some cash prizes for a few classes like the X30 Pro and the X30 Pro Junior. You got, you make a race with numbers breed numbers, and then you get some big money guys, and guys will start testing weeks out. Could you see that practice ban getting evaluated? Where do you see it now, knowing that we had probably 80, 100 guys here testing last week?
Well, I'll say this about that. You get rid of the practice ban, you're still going to have 80 or 100 guys here testing the week before. It just, to me, doesn't change that situation. And we've been both sides of this. We've had years where we didn't have a practice ban. We've had the practice ban now for a number of years. And there's 2 sides to the way the practice has to work. And one is that there's value for the tracks, because that revenue is a big part of what they get, from an event, the practice revenue the weekend before and whatnot. But I don't think it's right to create a situation where people feel like they need to spend an entire week at the track. And I feel like if we practice Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before the event, then you would have everybody feeling like that's a requirement. And yeah, I know that people are like, well, we ended up traveling down there an extra time to practice on the weekend before. And yeah, I get it. Yeah. You don't have to, though. And I feel like if you said, we're going to start practice on Tuesday or Monday, that people would feel obligated to put it in all that time. Is something going to change in the future? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe there'll be a day where Friday is racing, and that's how we get more classes in, and the practice day is on Thursday and Tuesday. I don't know. But at the same time, it's a balance between making sure the tracks can make a living fair, making sure that people can get a fair amount of practice, and making sure that people don't feel like it's taken over their life. Because if it takes over your life, then you're not going to afford to be able to afford to come to the next event, or continue your karting career. So it's a balance. And there's as many arguments to say you should not have a ban as there is to say you should. And so I don't know that it's, there's not a compelling reason to change it right now.
Well, I think that's a very political answer, funny enough, on the night of the State of the Union here. So, Tim, thanks so much, man. I know we went a little bit longer. I really appreciate you talking, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'm sure a lot of people are too.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, we'll have a fun weekend, and we'll see you soon. Are you going to be here, Aaron?
Yeah, I'll be out here. I'm working with Austin Olds this weekend, KA Junior. So I'll be up on the mechanics stand somewhere, probably yelling at a driver for dumping a go-kart or something.
Make sure Austin's got his camera on in case we need to look at some video.
Oh, he made me drive up to Chicago to pick one up for my parents because they don't have one, so I'm bringing one for them.
There you go.
Awesome.
There you go.
All right.
Very
Well,
nice.
We'll see both you guys this weekend and have fun.
Yep. See ya.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Thanks.
All right. So that wraps us up here for happy hour. Aaron, I don't know, man. We've got 300 count races. That one went longer than where I thought we did, but thanks for joining me, man. We need to do this a little more often and get you on here, huh?
Dude, I'll go another hour if you want to. I can keep going. I don't care.
Oh, I know you can go another hour. I don't think the viewers can take an hour straight more of you, especially. Maybe.
Yeah, that might be a bit of an ask for them.
We'll wait on that. Well, thank you guys, of course, for tuning in here. Casey Happy Hour, again, is going to be back next week. We'll have some drivers back on to debrief the USPKS event here from Orlando, prep up for the Florida Winter Tour Rock event, and stay posted here because this fantasy league is no joke, and it launches. Well, we'll see if I can get it done tonight. It will launch at minimum by tomorrow morning. You can get your picks in. So be looking at the entry list for the US Pro Kart Series, especially for X30 Pro. That's the class we're going to start in. We're not going to have you gambling on the kids. There's no gambling at all, but we're throwing up some Kart Chaser merch. You'll be able to put your picks in. You get 5 picks in total, any 5 drivers, except the 5th one has to be a rookie. So again, we've got about 20 rookies in the field. The drop down will be posted. I'll post the link on the replay of this audio chat. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you guys next time.